Hey everybody, it is Dan and Joe, aka Merlin from the Merlin the Mighty channel.
That's right.
Always great things there.
We discuss the magic of storytelling.
Yes, you do. And what stories we have today. This is Dan's big movie, which we take an anniversary of significance, and in this case, the 30th anniversary of one of my all-time favorite movies, Defending Your Life, which is soon to get the Criterion stamp of approval, which I sort of wish it was out before this because I would have listened to the commentary before we did this.
Yeah, I hope so.
But unfortunately, not so much. This comes with nothing, bare bones. In fact, we left the menu on for too long, for like 5 minutes, and the movie just started. We didn't even hit anything.
Yeah.
But this is a very under-the-radar movie.
Yeah.
I watched it for the first time in theaters with my buddy, Abe, when I was 13 or 14. It was in 1991.
Oh, nice.
And his mother went with us because we were too young to drive. And, it's rated PG, it's good for the family, whatever.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with the concept of this movie.
Okay.
Never heard of Meryl Streep before.
Oh.
Never heard of Albert Brooks before.
Okay.
And here we are. Loved it. So the movie we paired it with is Death Becomes Her. This is Defending Your Life. Death Becomes Her because another Streep from that same era. And another one I watched in theaters when it came out, opposite. I did not care for it at all.
And they both kind of they deal with similar...
They both deal with death.
Death and, yeah.
They are both available as well on HBO Max, which is kind of nice.
And I'd say they're both thinkers.
Yes, they're both thinkers in different ways.
Very much so. And they're both comedies and offbeat.
I think more people now, funnily enough, know Death Becomes Her.
And this one's
over
even
this.
more under... That's interesting. They're both kind of more obscure.
That has become sort of a cult film.
Yeah, I could see that.
As a lot of sort of dark comedies do. And that kind of thing. So what we do in Dan's Big Movie is just sort of dissect them both. It's a long-form conversation. We do encourage you that you've seen the movies before watching the reviews here because Dan's Big Movie is all about the details. And so we're going to talk about a lot of the stuff in these movies as we go along. So you know Albert Brooks mostly from voice work and this great movie Drive, which is very, very dramatic,
but so out of his typical,
which is not what he's
wheelhouse.
known for.
But I just remember thinking he's such a great villain in that movie, and that's pretty much it.
Yes, and that is very far from what he does.
Oh, he's Hank Scorpio. I get it.
So you know him mainly from a lot of the Simpsons stuff.
Simpsons and Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo, he plays the dad.
Yep.
And then he also did half a season on Weeds, which is I love Weeds, but one of the kids on Weeds voiced Nemo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I don't know if that was synergy on purpose or what they did there, but
somebody knew somebody.
Yeah. But either way, so I thought that was cool. But other than that, he got fame in the 70s.
Okay.
He made, how nowadays on Saturday Night Live they do the digital shorts. Andy Samberg does them with The Lonely Island back in the day. Now they do them with other people.
Sure.
He was the first person to bring recorded short form comedy in videos that weren't live sketches to SNL.
Okay.
So he has his roots there, and then he made a lot of very acclaimed movies in the late 70s and 80s that, film people like, but nobody really talks about them.
Okay.
Lost in America, I think, was the name of one of them.
Oh.
But, so when this came out, I was like, well, the concept sounds interesting.
Sure.
But I don't know these people. Meryl who? Like, what is that?
That's funny.
So Defending Your Life in concept and in, theme is basically this guy dies in the first or second scene of the movie.
Yep.
He's like an ad executive, whatever. He gets his brand new car, got a great CD player, all the CDs sort of shove off onto the floor. He bends down to get them while he's driving and gets hit by a bus. Dead instantly. And this movie is about how, in this version of death, the afterlife, you go in front of a judge, or a couple judges, I guess. You have a trial lawyer, in this case played by Rip Torn, the great.
Zed, yeah.
And then a prosecuting attorney, and they play clips from your life in order to find out what kind of person you were, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not sure if this is the case for everyone, but in his particular case, fear was at the heart of everything.
Yeah.
You know, his prosecuting attorney was saying, well, he's afraid he does not deserve to move on. And when they talk about move on, we don't necessarily know what that means. We assume it's heaven.
Yeah, they kind of mention how it's like you just kind of continue on and you grow and you evolve and you go to different worlds, and basically it's like a reincarnation. It's sort of a mesh of different.
Well,
things.
it's not really reincarnation because you're still who you are. The other thing is reincarnation.
Yeah.
If you fail your trial, you get reincarnated and sent back.
That's true.
As a baby.
You'll go back on Earth over and over again, and you could just go on to the next stage.
And people do it many times. He asks his lawyer, well, okay, how many times have I been here? 20.
Yeah.
You know, okay, is that reasonable amount?
Yeah.
We don't. Sometimes
people
yes, sometimes no.
Times, yeah.
Right. People have been here hundreds of times, and so the concept of that always sort of intrigued me because as a kid, I went to Catholic school when I was real little, but we didn't have a whole. Our family was not very religious. We didn't attend services regularly, so to me the concept of afterlife, I believed in heaven and hell, but didn't really know much about it. And then of course, you know me, I love recollecting things and writing things down, and I would the whole Truman Show concept is very interesting to me.
You've been observed.
Yeah, and so for me to the concept of my whole life has been recorded and now we're going to watch it in the afterlife, that really was something that was interesting to me.
Like the life historian of yourself.
Yes.
Documentation. I can relate to
yes,
that.
documentation. And of course, you know me, I always list everything and all of that kind of thing.
Do the podcast.
And I want to remember moments and yes. And so I loved that concept. And of course, he gets to Judgment City, meets Meryl Streep, who is also going to be on trial, but she is this very almost Mother Teresa person.
Great person.
Yeah, just giving of herself and of her time, and a blessing upon everybody, and this and that.
And everyone's impressed by her. Her trial's pretty much a formality.
Yeah, I mean she's joking with the judge and her prosecutor.
The prosecutor, that was a pleasure. Let's run that clip again.
Joke, right?
Yeah, that was good.
In the lobby afterwards, so that was good. But they fall for each other. And so it ends up actually being, kind of a romantic comedy, but also a very philosophical one.
Yeah.
Also a very, mental one, I think.
Yeah. Very metaphysical.
Yeah. So, okay, I want to get your reactions because you've, A, never seen this movie, B, never heard of it until you met me.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And you've heard of it several times over the years. I do bring it up a bit.
I think a couple times, but honestly, when you mentioned it the first time recently in one of our recent drinking game nights or something, I think it's the first time I recalled it. So I really did not know anything about it.
No, a lot of people don't. When you look at, even somebody as big as Meryl Streep, this is not one that gets
comes
talked
up in
about.
Conversation.
Yeah.
I'm a big Streep fan.
Yes, look, you like Streep, just think she's overhyped.
That's kind of always been my thing.
I got it. But I didn't know anything about her when I saw this movie, and I was like, oh man, this actress is great, and then I saw Death Becomes Her, I was like, oh, maybe not, which we'll get to. But I want your impressions about this movie.
Okay. Where do we start? Give me something specific, or just go? Because there's a lot.
No, because you knew nothing going in.
Okay.
So I guess obviously we'll do grades and stuff later, but what did you think, or did you think anything about this movie? You said you mentioned watching the trailer.
Yes.
Before we watched it.
You told me about it. I'm like, you told me the concept, and it sounded very interesting. And I'm like, how have I not heard of this one? This sounds cool, and I like Albert Brooks. So I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And I watched the trailer, which I think gave you a few little. I got the essence of what was going to happen, but obviously it still left a lot out. And it seemed like it might be interesting. It seemed like it could be interesting, and it's definitely, I think, a well-balanced comedy because it's got a little bit of everything. There's jokes I think that a lot of people could appreciate, but some of it's very dry. There's a lot of kind of high concept stuff.
I have to admit, when I saw this at 13, I wouldn't say I was rolling in the aisles. I liked it more for its philosophical content than necessarily its comedy. But in my later years, I've come to really appreciate that part of it as well.
As an adult, who obviously reflects on a lot of these things and how it kind of directly connects with just life experience anyway, I appreciate a lot of the humor, even though it wasn't always gut busting.
No, I think some of the humor I appreciated when first watching it was the more broad jokes.
Slapstick.
When he finds out in one of his past lives,
he was running by a tiger.
Yeah, he was running from a tiger. And she said, what were you in your past life? And he goes, dinner.
Dinner. That's a good line. That's funny.
But that's a pretty broad joke
that's a basic
that we don't see a ton of in this movie.
There's more stuff that's connected to just shopping and monetary stuff and legal.
Everything's perfect. Every food is the best.
Every
restaurant he goes to,
you can have as much as you want.
What would you recommend?
Everything. Everything said, okay, I'll have this. Wonderful choice. That's something that you might not quite get why that's funny as a kid.
Yeah, and I don't think I did.
And I think that's the thing I like about it. It's a very smart movie, and it's like everything else about it, it's incredibly subtle. And I guess that the thing about it that's really, really good is the fact that even its whole message is, it could very easily, the way it's even presented, even from the trailer, it could seem like it's kind of cheesy, very preachy, hammy, could bang you over the head with something, but it's not.
At all.
It's very...
And it's like a
gentle...
You could think maybe from the concept that it would be religious in some way. Or, lean one way or the other. And other than Rip Torn telling him straight out there's no hell.
Just kind of nice.
It really takes zero religious... And, obviously, look, if you know anything about Albert Brooks, you know he's Jewish.
But I like that, and
I like that too. It doesn't. Well, it's universal that way.
That was actually the thing. I was trying to save it. That is probably the thing that I liked the most about the movie, is that the concept of dealing with the concept of the afterlife, but more importantly, your life and how you choose to look at it, and live it, and what the goal perhaps of living could be for an individual or humanity as a whole. And the thing I thought was really great about it was that it's humor people can appreciate, characters and situations that people could all appreciate, but it doesn't really matter specifically what we believe in. There's concepts in here that are pretty universal. Yeah. Even if you weren't religious at all, I think you could still get behind the message of defending your life.
Because everybody dies.
Everybody dies, and we'll have to look back and say, what did I do? How did I value my life? What choices did I make? And everybody weighs what could I have done.
And it's interesting how they do the trial portion.
Oh, the trial
because you have
one of my favorite parts.
The videos from the different days, and the prosecuting attorney is hammering hard. Oh, well, this was fear based, and he didn't
survival. Thought about himself.
Right. Didn't want to rock the boat or whatever.
Play it safe. Where's the growth?
Whereas his attorney, the Rip Torn character, is more of, okay, but look what he did after, or look at this part, or I see a man that wanted to please these people and not cause. It's a very interesting.
I got two things to comment about that.
Okay.
I think that's probably my favorite portion of the movie, is the trial aspect itself and how they do that, because...
And I should point out, before you continue, we've talked about Albert Brooks a bit. I'm sorry, hold the thought. But I want to point out, Albert Brooks wrote and directed this movie as well.
That's awesome.
So I want to throw that out there as we're talking about all these great concepts.
Once again,
he doesn't just act in it. This is his vision.
It's like a project, and so maybe his views on life are here, and whether or not his specific Jewishness didn't really carry over too much.
Not at all. Yeah.
Which I thought.
So I'm sorry.
Okay. No, and
I just wanted to throw that out before I forgot.
And in addition, I guess now being reminded of that, I think Albert Brooks is probably a pretty smart guy when it comes to comedy and just in general.
Yes.
And I love how it's not. That's another topic of the tone. But see, I'm trying.
Keep it in your mind.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
But with the trial specifically, one thing philosophically that I loved about it was that, much like an actual trial, I mean, they have evidence, but there's always that little bit of uncertainty of perspective.
Right.
And the prosecutor and defender are really just kind of pushing different perspectives based on certain aspects, which you could open to interpretation, and it's like really representative of these are just two sides of himself looking at two aspects, which could both be correct to a certain degree.
Well, it's almost like the classic angel and devil, on your shoulder.
Like you're a failure, no, you're not.
Right.
Like it's like, and it's the positive and negative. But even looking at the exact same event and seeing how it has different effects that both could be true if you turn it, and really it's thematically about him just learning to kind of accept himself. And
well, and the other thing that we can't know just from watching videos, and that's something obviously that's come into courts a lot lately with cell phones and everybody has video for everything.
Thinking.
But we don't know what's in his mind.
And I love that
at that time.
Each of these individuals that's been here and has advanced and into higher states of being, they're smarter, but they still can't know who you really are and what you were going through.
A running gag is the percentage of their brain they use.
No, they're so.
Oh, well, he uses 47. Oh, well, she uses 53.
Like, no matter how smart.
And Albert Brooks uses 3.
All humans pretty much use 3, and if you have more than 3%, you want to be on Earth. So smarter people don't want to be. That's a great gag. Sure.
But you're right. All of these very highly intelligent, very high, advanced, can't
they still know who you are,
who he is inside,
what you really wanted, what your issues were like.
They see the black and white.
They can only offer what they see.
But his mind is not black and white.
No, and it's all about him, really. Yeah. And they still can't see inside him.
Right.
And really how he sees his life and how he lived it. They just see snips of it from the outside like we do as an audience.
Right.
And also, very interesting, they try to pick and choose things, but you might look at certain events of your life as being so big, but they don't look at the whole life. They just pick random selected
They look at
ones.
random things that maybe in his his subconscious stuck with him, but not things that he goes back to every day, or anything like that.
And your life is much more than just a few things.
Right.
So I think that's really interesting that they do choose to focus on a couple, which is oddly kind of unfair.
It is.
So it's almost like a test for him. The whole thing's like a charade for the individual.
Yeah, you could say that.
In a sense.
And each person has different number of days. For the Streep character, they were only doing 4 different days because she's so great, whatever. But him, he had 9 days. They kept going back to that number, 9 days, 9 days.
Oh, also, that was great as well to show the different levels of how in tune with yourself you are, whatever your personal journey is you're going through. So that is cool. Also, one of my favorite jokes, which I think probably might be the funniest, Rip Torn was great in this movie.
Yeah, he really is.
When
this is the first time I ever saw him in anything too. When I
slowly giving exposition to Albert Brooks about how things work, where he is, and it's like, okay, what about kids? Oh, hey, they get to move on. They don't get punished for this.
That was nice.
Because they're more innocent. And then what about teenagers? Oh, too much trouble. They go somewhere else. There's a whole separate dimension for just dealing with teenagers. That's a very complicated
part. That was a good joke.
And I just love how even though they're further along on this thing, they still don't have all the answers.
Yeah,
I love that.
True.
They're still trying to figure out the best they can.
Right.
And there's still some mystery.
Well, and that's because everybody's different, and people also evolve differently too. So if people that you were looking at things in the 50s and 60s maybe are different from 2010 or whatever,
so trying to it's even they're comparing this thing happened, what would you do? They're trying to offer these things happen, and they're trying to say, okay, well, can you really judge them for that or not? And you can. So it's just interesting how there are these things putting in there, and you can argue about it different ways.
Well, and what's interesting as well is this is a whole universe unto itself, this Judgment City.
Yeah.
Because you have hotels and restaurants and shopping and everything you have in the real world, even though you're only there for 4 days. They tell you on the tram on the way in, which, by the way, we didn't talk about that yet, but how as soon as you die, everybody's too stiff to even talk or move.
Like they did just die.
Yeah.
Or kind of like they're being born again and they have to slowly
you had said that.
Explain things. I'm like, ooh, interesting.
So on the tram car, they're actually doing a call and response thing, knowing that they can't actually respond.
They're slowly forming words, and it's like they're coming out of becoming awake. And
I think that was well written for us too, because That joke where he goes like, "Oh, we have 4 golf clubs here, golf courses. Who likes to play golf?" And they all just stare, and he's like, "Well, you won't be able to raise your hand right now, But that tells us, okay, this is the state they're in.
Like in terms of integrating us into the main character as an audience to slowly figure out what's going on.
Right.
So smooth, and
yeah,
and I liked how really that was also just a great visual. Well shot, well put together, some good matte paintings and stuff. It's so simple, but everything is done like it's kind of like a business resort, kind of similar to like L.A.,
right.
But it's not quite right.
And they even point out like, oh, if we did our jobs right, you guys are all from the West Coast, so we designed this Judgment City.
So it's like
for you,
groups of people that died around the same time, which is why it comes with a bunch of old people.
But you would also imagine then, like if you were in Nebraska or South Dakota, you would go to a different Judgment City that more resembled a rural area,
and that's really interesting and nice. That's
such a concept,
which means that possibly throughout the eons of time, this wasn't so smooth, and they realized that to transition, they're trying to make it as much like Earth and life as possible, so that they can process it and deal with it and be relaxed. Because if they weren't, can you imagine how difficult it would be to manage?
But at the same time, you still need to eat, sleep,
and go to the
bathroom. Like it's very interesting that you would still have to do all of those things in Judgment City
to keep you feeling like you're still
used to being alive, right?
Which is something, and it's like if you didn't have those things, maybe that would be the thing that kind of makes you go, "What the heck?"
Right.
So
and we never hear that. We always hear like, "Okay, well, when you die, you go to heaven or whatever happens," but like, you either cease to exist or you float up into the clouds and you meet St. Peter or whatever. But it's like you never think of a world where you still have to go to the bathroom, you still have to sleep, you still have to
what if it was? And that was brilliant. That this sort of afterlife is basically Earth. It's our life, just a little more supernatural.
Yes, a little more skewed,
cleaner, a little nicer,
more perfect,
more an ideal world.
Yes, an ideal world. And so at the end, when we have the big, romantic thing, because we haven't really talked about the romance too much. But okay, I guess before we get to the end, how do you feel about the romance?
It was good.
Yeah. I think, look, what's interesting about this as we were watching, because I've seen this maybe 3 times previously, and the last time was probably about 10 or 12 years ago, and the romance aspect of this is something that I kind of liked as a kid. I was into romance movies, whatever, but looking now as an adult, to think about the era this existed in, when they made movies like this for all ages. It was rated PG. There's nothing really sexual in this movie.
No, it's a very wholesome movie.
It is very wholesome.
There's nothing, and even there's nothing really super dark.
There's not a lot of bad language.
It's a very, even the humor. It's all very good. It's all very nice.
And they used to make movies like this. And I think they don't, like, if they made this movie now, the studios would be like, well,
you gotta
at least throw out a few curse words in there.
Some boobs.
To make it PG-13, because if you make this movie, nobody's going to go see it. It's PG, nobody's going to want that. And I think that's a shame.
You might be right. I don't think they make too many good, wholesome, high-concept movies that everybody could sit down and watch. Which is kind of a shame.
It's a bummer. It really is. And I think in some aspects that's why
nobody knows.
A lot of people but that's why a lot of people go back still to the Goonies.
Yeah.
And Uncle Buck and Bill and Ted's, and because even
it's nice, but it's kind of smart, but everybody could kind of watch it.
Everybody can watch it together, and the parents grew up on it, of course. But like,
it's not a specific niche.
My parents didn't show me movies from the 60s and 70s they grew up with, except for like Sound of Music, like movies that were made for families, because we had so many movies like the Goonies and that kind of thing back when I was a kid. I think kids today don't have that, and I think that's a shame.
No, I agree. I think that it's just because everything today is about specific niches and trying to get. It's like, well, it's either go for a very specific audience or try to get everybody in as possible. Right. But just because it's so safe, it's like nobody wants safe anymore.
And even awards, like even if you say, okay, this is a high concept movie.
It is very smart.
It's very smart. It's beautifully shot, great acting.
It's nice.
But a studio today would still be like, well, it's PG. The Oscars aren't going to like that. Why don't you, have a couple of scenes where, he's effing Meryl Streep, or they say a bunch of curse words, or
Something,
whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, this to me is, I don't like to say the word, but it's almost perfect to me.
Could be.
This is a near perfect movie, in my opinion.
Could be very close. Yeah.
And I think it's okay to not have some curse words in your movies and whatever.
Still be good. Yeah.
Still be good. I think it's a brilliant script.
Well, you know what it is? It's that there were more of these back then that aimed for this, but the truth is that is a realm that people, I guess, think for simplicity, which would be more like kids, and people automatically think if it's for kids, they'd be less likely to watch it. That's what's been coming the last 20 years or so. That or 30 years. Yeah, more. Yeah,
almost. Really, this was almost the end of that era.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. People see that G or PG rating. If it's not animated, they're like, well, that's going to be so stupid and weak and milquetoast that what's the point?
It seems too soft and not.
Yeah,
exactly.
Andy Griffith kind of concept,
or whatever. I like to use the word schmaltz, we're going to roll our eyes.
That's good schmaltz.
Yeah.
And the truth is, we don't see a lot of PG. The last big non-animated PG movie I can think of was Downton Abbey. When they made that into a movie.
Well, that's a
and
big
there you
audience
go.
right there.
That is, built-in audience already.
Yeah.
It's intellectual property that already exists.
Safe, yeah.
So, you're going to get people to turn out.
You're talking about a bigger issue, though, is that just, we've been talking about it for years, but especially with, bigger franchises and stuff, it's harder for little movies like this to even come out and get an audience.
It is.
You're right. So.
You're right.
Especially a comedy.
Even though, even when I started at Hollywood Video, which would have been 2006, there were still movies sort of in this vein. Like The Lake House is rated PG.
It's a good movie.
I've never seen it. The concept seems stupid, but
I liked it.
But it's rated PG.
But you're right. That's in the same line. It's like a light fantasy romance. It's very much That's
and guess what?
Similar. Yeah.
That's okay. and nobody thinks it's okay, but it is.
To be a nice
it really
movie
is.
with a good message that's not too cheesy about it.
Yeah. And that was a romance. People love Sandra Bullock, whatever.
Keanu together again,
of course. But, I don't know. What do you think about the end, though?
The ending's good.
They finally...
I like that, basically...
Get together.
His arc is sort of about, kind of learning about connecting with people and kind of his worry about making the right decision or not.
Right.
Because he didn't want to get with her because he's like, if I do, maybe I'll lose you one day. Or if I don't, maybe... I don't know, if I do it maybe and I never see you again, I don't move on, I'll have to live with that sadness, the love loss thing.
Even though he won't remember. He knows he won't remember.
He still doesn't want to go through that.
He doesn't want to do it.
In the moment, if he goes back. So it's either way, he doesn't want to risk it.
Right.
He doesn't want to risk connecting with another person.
And so he overcomes his fear.
Yeah.
The whole movie's about his fear.
Mm-hmm.
And, goes and gets out of his own tram, which is going back, and... gets on hers, which is, he's being shocked.
Yeah, so it's not really allowed.
Electric shock, is going through his body, but he doesn't even care.
Yeah.
And, of course, the judges and the prosecutor and Rip Torn are all watching this as it unfolds.
Because Rip Torn knew we're going to keep it rolling because we found out one of the twists was the prosecutor was going to record this stuff.
Because they are also recorded in the afterlife.
You're still in trial here because this is still your life.
City.
It's still going.
Right.
And so it's like, okay.
Which was a little bit of a twist.
That was a little bit
He didn't know.
But then the best twist is, I loved it. Rip Torn says, I have faith in you. He did, which is why he kept rolling and knew he'd make it. So that was good. That was really good.
He's your favorite character.
Yes. Actually, I really liked him a lot.
No, he was very good.
And you know what the most tense thing was? Because you're really worried about, even though it's not the worst thing, you just have to go back. You want him to succeed.
Yeah.
And this prosecutor seems so against him and making him feel so bad about his life and going through some trauma.
Right.
Honestly. The one scene where we're worried about something's getting rigged, where Rip Torn doesn't come back because of some weird,
some weird
interdimensional thing he's got to do.
Yeah.
And so he temporarily gets this terrible lawyer that doesn't care. It's what is going on? So yes.
Well, okay, but with that, the Rip Torn character, who I love, I absolutely do. One of the things that makes me love the Brooks character, though, is that he could have written himself as...
perfect.
No, I was going to go the opposite.
Oh, terrible.
As a jerk that is literally defending your life. No, I have good qualities too. But this person...
pretty average.
Is very average. he's already a good person.
But
so why can't we, because he's
not
crippled by his fear and da-da-da-da-da. And it's a very
relatable.
Interesting... It's relatable. It's a very interesting concept. They could have made him a jerk-off, and instead they made him completely average.
Oh yeah, like he could have been like
nice guy,
Scrooge type. Right. He's he's an average guy going through average things, and it's like most people probably are.
Yeah.
Well, he's an everyman, so you can insert yourself into it. And for instance, I think one of the
I think that's brilliant.
That was brilliant, and I think one of the probably my favorite part of the clips actually was the snowmobile thing, because he's out there living life,
trying to face his fears.
He's going down on this, facing some danger, but enjoying the thrill of it.
Crawled 3 miles with a broken leg or whatever.
He crashes, and it's like, oh yeah, that's bravery. And it's like, she's like, oh no, he you never went and did it again. Like, okay, because he didn't like it. He tried it, but he didn't like it. That's fair.
Explain that.
And Rip Torn's like, well, think about it. He had the courage to keep on going and keep on living. He could have just given up. That's so.
And I thought that was bold.
That's just self-preservation. So that's the interesting thing. It's like, but doesn't that count for something? Yeah. It's interesting stuff to think about.
Very interesting. It really is. All right, so I guess we should give our grades because there is still a whole nother movie to talk about.
True.
And of course, after we give our grades, we always like to look at the Ebert
what people
from back in the day
and
the Rotten to see what people think of, sort of in retrospect, for some of these older movies.
Sure.
But, all right, so for me... I mean, this is an easy one. This is an A+. It's
one of your favorites.
I really, we just did our top 50s that we'll be doing on your channel. But this definitely made my short list. Did not make my top 50, unfortunately. But it's for me probably 60 or so.
Okay.
It's definitely up there for me. It's an A+, easy.
Oh, wow.
How about for you?
I'd probably have to let it sit for a while. I felt like the romance was maybe a little simple for me on some ways, which is fine. And even though it was well shot, I thought that some of the design was also a little simple for the production, like little things here and there, like Brooks' direction with the cinematography was very good. It was very effective.
Yeah.
But I guess I felt like I wanted a little more punch from that stuff.
Did you want to see more of the city, or
maybe a little more world building?
I wonder what the budget was on this.
Like, it probably wasn't a lot, but and don't get me wrong, they did a lot with a little. Well, I guess we'll find out. But it's like I felt like it was very good, but I guess maybe I wanted a few more laughs, maybe a few more. What?
Listen to what Albert Brooks says. I just clicked on production here on Wiki. Brooks worked on the story for over 2 years. Fine. He says, quote, I wanted the equation to be a non-religious, non-heaven-like afterlife, and I think the most interesting thing about the movie is what it says about Earth. Self-examination, got a bad rap with yuppies turning inward, and I think it's an important thing to do.
Looking about materialism and stuff like that.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's about evaluating, defending your life. It's looking back on your life. It works on many levels.
And Brooks rewrote the part for Streep.
Oh, when he knew he was going to get her.
Wow.
So he had somebody else in mind and said, I'm going to rewrite.
Brooks says he's friends with Carrie Fisher, and she worked with Streep on Postcards from the Edge.
Oh, that's right. I heard of that.
So that makes sense.
You can see that.
And Meryl joked and said, is there a part for me? And he said he never would have thought he could get her because she's so unapproachable.
What?
See, this is why I need the commentary. I should have done more background research into this, but that's fine.
That's good.
All right. Anyway, so 97% on Rotten. Based on 32 reviews. Okay, that's good. Do we have an Ebert, maybe?
I hope so. Yeah.
It was nominated for AFI's 100 Years, 100 Laughs.
I could believe that.
That's good.
With Hero.
Yes, with Hero. Hey, it received the 3 Saturn nominations, your favorite awards.
Because it's kind of fantasy.
For Best Actress, Best Fantasy Film, and Best Writing for Brooks.
Well, I do like the Saturns.
Yeah, Saturn Awards, listen, they know I think, get to the heart of what a lot of people are thinking.
Yes. At least for that.
Roger Ebert called it funny in a warm, fuzzy way and a film with a splendidly satisfactory ending, which is unusual for an Albert Brooks film. So maybe most of his movies end on a down note. That's interesting.
Also, with the ending, when they go through the final tunnel, it could be birth canal, another life.
Yes, we had talked about that. Yeah, as sort of a metaphor.
You also thought it might have been a little more sexual at the beginning.
I thought maybe
could be both. You know, good visuals.
Either way, I think it works.
It definitely works either way.
All right, so that would mean out of 32 reviews, 97%. So that means there's probably one rotten. Let's see if we can figure out what that person.
You gotta scroll down and be like, well,
yeah. One rotten
He's
view.
me, the rotten guy. Oh, there he is.
All it says, it's from the Mountain Express. Now, he gives it a 1 out of 5. So this guy just has an axe to grind. It says interminable, typical Albert Brooks. So he's just not a fan.
Okay,
so that's almost stupid.
That's almost too excuse. Yeah, that's not even a review.
Audience, out of 5,000 plus people, 83%. That's not
good.
bad.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad. All right, now let's look at the actual Ebert.
The one guy that was Ebert.
Yeah, I mean...
His .com people, they're good, but we wish that he was
still wish that he was still there. Well, here's the problem. Listen, wow, their site gave Justice League Zack Snyder cut 3.5. That's all I'll say about that. Not going to look at anything about that.
Don't.
All right.
Don't. We'll talk about it later. Probably.
That'll be out by the time this gets posted anyway, but for you and I, all right.
I'll probably watch it.
All right. Makes sense. That's the key thing on there.
And believe it or not, I have more things to say, but I'm going to save some of it till after we talk about the next movie.
Okay.
Because something happened this time.
Oh.
So you've got to keep it surprised.
Interesting.
And I'll finally say it.
All right. Well, I like that.
But yeah.
All right. Let's go to Defending Your Life, see what good old Ebert had to say about it.
Sounds pretty positive from what he said on the...
yeah, I would say so.
You got it. Basically, what I always do is I go Google Roger.
I know. I'm just going to actually type the movie in.
Sometimes finding
his website's a little hard sometimes.
It's not the best. Honestly, Rotten's not very good, too, for looking things up.
3.5.
Very good.
Yeah. All right. Well, we don't have to read any more about it, but all right. So you have another thought about it, but you want to save it till we talk about Death Becomes Her.
Yes, it's kind of connected to Death Becomes Her, but basically I'm with our good buddy Ebert. I think it's a good A movie.
Okay.
It's a great movie. I think it could be an A+, but like I said, I thought some things about the romance were simple, but it's not really a detriment because it's
but the whole movie is sort of simple in a way.
So that you can grasp it, but I wanted them to dive just a little deeper because that one seemed like a little cliche what was going to happen.
Okay.
But you know what? It's fine.
Sure.
There's so much smart stuff.
Listen, an A for this, I think, is very acceptable.
I think it is a great movie.
Yeah.
I think he should have put it in his great movies, but he probably wouldn't have because that has to be 4 stars.
Yeah, Ebert only put 4s in there, I think. But all right, let's talk about Death Becomes Her. That's the next one. This is the next one actually in the Streep filmography line. Now, this was the very next one. She did a narration for some movie, but this was the next acting one. This was very different.
I wish that I could have had more time to think about it because I'm just like we just watched it. So I'm like, man, how do I feel about this movie?
So this movie is most known for its effects.
Oh,
this is a Zemeckis film.
Once again, I knew even less about this one.
I tricked you on
it. Did. I was like, you were like, because you sold it as negative. Like, man, this sucks. It's
because
some weird thing.
No, hold on.
Like, you were like,
I watched this 29 years ago, and I stand by that when I watched it as a kid, I thought it was terrible. I didn't like it at all. My friend went with me. We both thought it was stupid. My parents were going to see it later that night. I said, listen, don't see it. It stinks. They came back and they said, boy, what a bomb.
Oh, no.
So I, for the last 29 years, had this image that it stunk. I was not tricking you. Now, I didn't tell you it was...
You were trying.
Fantasy. I didn't tell you about the effects.
You didn't tell me there were things about this movie that were very me.
Well, no, why would I?
I don't know.
Why would I do that? Listen, you're going to watch it anyway.
That's true.
So why would I, you know me, I don't even watch trailers. I don't like to spoil.
The point is, Dan, game well played.
Well, thank you.
I had an expectation.
Thank you. I did tell you Bruce Willis was in it. I thought that, and Goldie Hawn, and you like those people. So I thought that would be enough.
I do like
to at
both
least
those
entice
people,
you.
but they're not automatic. You know, they both do bad movies sometimes. So I'm like, I wasn't automatically like, eh.
Back then, Willis usually did. Well, I guess he did Hudson Hawk around this time.
And what was it? Last Boy Scout.
Yeah.
He had his bombs.
So look, this won an Academy Award for visual effects.
Well,
and you can see why.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see who it even went up against.
92, right?
Let's see if it said, yeah.
What was out in 92? Not Jurassic
Park. I don't know.
What if it came out next year?
I know, you're right.
By Jurassic
You're
Park.
right.
92.
Let's see here.
What else was nommed in for award?
I don't know here.
For a special effects.
All right, let's see.
92. Roger Rabbit, 88.
Filmmakers, effects. Okay, special effects awards.
Okay.
So there's special effects and visual effects. So special effects only went to 62, and then it became visual effects.
Okay.
All right, so this particular year, Alien 3 and Batman Returns, one of your favorites. Interesting.
All right. Here's what I got to say about that.
Tell me.
Now, I'll tell you. I know about both these movies.
Yeah, I know you do.
Alien 3 has some good effects, but the CGI Alien didn't look quite right.
Okay.
And it's one you haven't seen, right?
Yeah, that's the one I haven't seen.
Great production stuff. There's some good effects, but compared to the first two. I don't think it's quite there. Batman Returns, amazing production and makeup for Danny DeVito's Penguin, obviously, everybody. But
how about this movie?
For the groundbreakingness of what they did here, I totally get it, actually.
All right, look, before we even go into this movie, I'm going to tell you right now.
I'm going to go out of it.
Why
around it.
Well, why I felt the way I did about it then, and watching it now 29 years later, why I feel different.
Okay.
Before we even really get into it.
Sure, backstory.
Because that was not a ruse. I really did not like it. I did not quite understand dark comedy at my 14 years of age. I also didn't quite understand satire. The satire I understood was...
Oh, there's some good satire.
The Naked Gun.
Spoofs.
Spoofs. I understood. I'm going to get you, sucker.
Very in your face.
Hot shots.
Action.
Top Secret.
A lot of physical comedy.
Movies that were literally just parody films.
Straight parody.
I was not really exposed, I guess, to a lot of satire films.
Satirical.
Or dark comedy. So,
this is a good dark
comedy. I didn't know... look, I knew... I knew who Streep was from Defending Your Life, and I was like, oh my God, I love her. I knew Bruce Willis was sort of in a more roundabout way, because I was not allowed to watch Die Hard. Didn't watch Moonlighting, obviously. I knew him a little bit from, sadly, his music career in the late 80s.
What was his music career?
He did a bunch of covers, Under the Boardwalk and Respect Yourself, and he had a couple of minor hits with them.
Oh.
But that's where I knew him from.
What?
the Bruce Willis singing career. And then I guess maybe I had seen... Oh, I know. I saw Look Who's Talking.
Oh, okay.
So I knew him from that.
Okay.
But this was the era, like you were saying as we watched it, this was the era of Willis just trying anything.
Trying to act.
Trying to be in these bigger budget pictures that were more comedies and
experimental things.
Experimental.
12 Monkeys.
So I saw Look Who's Talking, and I knew him from that. Goldie Hawn, I knew from... I hadn't seen Overboard yet. I knew her from Wildcats, which was the Woody Harrelson football movie she was in.
And you've never seen Private Benjamin or...
No, I saw the show Private Benjamin, but she wasn't in that.
She was in
the movie.
Have you seen Protocol?
No.
See, I got some Hawn.
And I knew her from being on Laugh-In, which was the 60s sketch show she was on.
Oh, okay.
I knew her from that, from like Nick at Night or whatever. So I was like, okay, I like these three people. I kind of know them. This will be great. Robert Zemeckis is the director, who I knew, of course, from Back to the Future. Roger Rabbit. Great pedigree. So I'm like, this is going to be great. It was getting okay reviews.
It's very different.
But I saw it and I was like, I didn't get the satire at all.
It's not Back to the Future.
It's not Back to the Future. Where's the ha-ha? Now, looking at it 29 years later, I have a completely different take on the movie. Mm-hmm. I really do.
I would hope so.
So Robert Zemeckis, I said all of what he did. But the writer, I told you that I knew this writer from something.
Who was he again?
David Koepp.
David?
He's a co-writer. There's two writers. The other writer didn't really do so much, Martin Donovan. But this guy, let me tell you.
Uh-oh.
Okay?
Like him? I might
writing. Well, let's talk about Jurassic Park.
What?
The Shadow.
Ooh.
We talked about that. Mission Impossible 1.
Nice.
The Paper, which is an excellent Michael Keaton
Never saw
drama.
that one.
Lost World Jurassic Park.
Fun.
Stir of Echoes. You love that.
It's not bad.
Secret Window. Okay. Spider-Man 2002. Panic Room. Jodie Foster.
Oh, wow.
War of the Worlds.
Talk about diverse.
One of my favorite comedies in recent years. Wrote and directed Ghost Town with Ricky Gervais.
I didn't see that one.
Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, Inferno, The Mummy. Okay, so lately he hasn't been doing so hot.
But he's got some...
This is a pedigree.
He's got some... He can bounce around, that's for sure.
And right before Death Becomes Her, he did Toy Soldiers.
Okay.
So he gets around. A lot of different genres there, too.
He can balance between
some
different
action,
genres.
a little horror.
Some
sci-fi. Comedy with Ghost Town, although kind of sci-fi comedy. But,
that's an interesting thing. Usually a lot of screenwriters usually stick to one or two kind of things. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
Very cool. And Jurassic Park does have jokes.
It does have some good comedy, and it's a good screenplay, admittedly adapted. But
adapted, yes.
But still, honestly, a pretty solid screenplay.
And if I remember correctly, the first Mission Impossible had some jokes, too.
Oh, yeah, there's some fun stuff.
So, I mean,
the
guy obviously knows some things.
Yeah.
All right, so the concept of this...
What a concept.
...is a...
Threw me twice, by the way.
The concept?
Yeah, I thought it was one thing.
It sort of twists.
Then it's something else.
At the first half hour or so, it's really mostly a
riff
spoof, I guess, on celebrity culture, and
jealousy.
Fashion. The basic concept is the Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn characters
beauty
grew up together, and they were always sort of vying for the same man. Meryl Streep always won out, but now she's this famous Broadway star. Mm-hmm. Although in the first scene of the movie, her new Broadway show is apparently a big bomb. Everyone hates it.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some interesting things about
backstory,
that. But then she meets Bruce Willis, who is Goldie Hawn's husband.
Surgeon.
And they decide to split up because he goes with Streep.
Mm-hmm.
As a nip-tuck guy.
Yeah, kind of plastic surgeon guy.
Yeah. And so then we jump 7 years ahead, and we see Hawn is
what a wreck.
Real, heavy. She's let herself go. She's living with 20 cats.
Food is literally everywhere.
Yes.
And it is like, you continue with your synopsis, but I just got to say, right there, I was like, wow.
You like the effects right away.
Like, number one,
the makeup on the fat suit.
The makeup for the fat suit and for her face and just how they make her carry the character, even with the costuming and how her hair was. She's this very frumpy, kind of cold, sort of stiff character, which is one reason why sexuality might have been more pushed towards Streep. Perhaps they go into. And in that one scene where they show her downfall, it's like, it is in that line of dark comedy where it's like wow, this is kind of funny, but it's also uncomfortable because it can be real.
It's very sad.
And it's like we are on the line, but the comedy kind of comes from when she's watching this movie with Michael Caine in it, where she's getting killed
with Streep, she keeps rewinding the part where Streep gets killed.
But like right away, I was like, I knew in that scene, that is some great effects and set design, and with the room and all the food, it was kind of gross and it was. I'm like, wow, this is dark comedy. This is now this is not Calvary where it's not dark comedy.
Right.
This is
actually dark
pitch
comedy.
Black. Dark comedy.
Yeah. So she goes to a rehab facility for I guess an eating disorder. They didn't really say what, but she was kicked out of her apartment anyway because
she wasn't paying rent.
I think she wasn't paying rent or working.
Health code violations probably.
So at that point in time, Bruce Willis and Streep's character are together. So then we flash 7 years later. And Streep is now sort of an aging actress. Mm-hmm. Still, maybe at the top of her game, but a lot of issues with her looks internally. She's just wondering, like, how long am I going to have it? So she goes to this plastic surgeon, and she meets an odd man in the office that gives her a business card, which she doesn't think anything of at the time, but later takes him up on it after sort of... looking at herself in the mirror and saying, I'm so old, whatever. So it turns out it's the great Isabella Rossellini.
Wow.
Half nude for most of this movie.
Yeah.
PG-13 nudity, but back in 92 you could get away with some things in PG-13.
Pretty much straight naked.
Yes.
Like as about naked as you could be without showing
You didn't show nipple, but you showed pretty much her breasts were covered with
beads.
Like beads, but you could see the side boob for sure.
Later her
see her butt a lot.
And I won't usually praise this too much, but some great costumes that were later on she's got the garb covering the half of her body, but the back of her is gone, and they play with it where she takes it off, and these guys put it on, and with elaborate costumes, but the front of her is kind of not. It's they play with nudity a lot.
Good PG-13 nudity in this movie for sure.
Creative at least.
But so she basically presents Streep's character with a forever serum that will make you look not even the way you are now, but it will take 10, 15 years off and then keep you at that level. Mm-hmm. But you must be careful with it. Meanwhile, while she's visiting that lady, Hawn and Willis's characters are like, okay, let's get back together because Hawn is now gorgeous. She's shed all the weight. She looks amazing in this outfit.
As convinced he's like, Streep was
she's got this book career where she's, this, diet book, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they decide, let's kill Streep's character, get her out of here, That night, Willis can't help himself. The plan's going to hell. He decides to just throw her down the stairs.
Choke her out and then
chokes her out, throws her down the stairs.
Yeah.
So she dies, but she doesn't because of the serum.
Which is a great sequence.
Really good sequence because you can see it's a little blurry in the background.
And it's all one take. They managed. It seemed like it with, and maybe it was superimposed with blue screen or meshing two different scenes.
Right.
Because I'm sorry I'm interrupting you.
That's okay.
The special effects just always. I love how they do this because I don't know how many
this is about, I would say, the time when they started to really use a little bit more computer stuff
integrated
with the
some blending,
and with the practical effects.
It's shot where basically
I think it works very well here.
One side, which may be a separate cut of the film of Bruce Willis doing the phone call, trying to call the ambulance because like, oh no, what has happened?
Mm-hmm.
And of course you've got her out of focus and slowly moving. He looks back, doesn't see it, moves again, and slowly going around. I'm thinking, okay, this is blurry, and as she's slowly getting up and coming, I'm thinking, this is and obviously they haven't perfected it,
right?
So it's out of focus, but you know that there's some digital. Yeah, there's some puppetry, some animatronics, some stunt double cut in there. I'm like, that is just really cool editing. I was floored by that sequence, and of course the reveal.
And then when she gets up, her head's still on backwards too, so that was kind of cool too.
Which was, I guess, early CGI.
We see that in focus,
and it is a bit off-putting. And this is Zemeckis got into this, but I'm like thinking for '92.
Well, and this was one of my problems actually with the movie he did last year, the remake of The Witches.
Uh-oh.
Because he was just doing a lot of similar things, and it would have been really cool 25 years ago, but he's still kind of sticking to his bits here of the same type of thing. And personally for me, the original Witches from around this time, 91,
that was all practical.
90, which was all practical, looked
great.
Actually a lot better than Zemeckis' new Witches. And I like Zemeckis, but I think he's sort of, because his early success with Roger Rabbit, Death Becomes Her, in the visual element, he's like, oh, okay, well, this still looks cool, and it kind of doesn't anymore, God bless him. But here, it looks great. For 92, especially later on, we find out Goldie Hawn had the same potion, so they shoot her in the chest, better. And she has this big gaping hole, this big.
That one?
For like 2 scenes.
That effect was like seamless.
Yes, it looked amazing.
I was like, this is 92, and
it looked amazing.
It doesn't look off at all. I'm like, that was impressive.
Better than Streep's neck, I think. Streep's neck, you could see maybe was a little
off. It's almost like it's like maybe not quite right.
And they tried to play it off like, oh yeah, well you've got that bone, sticking out, whatever.
And the thing is, they managed to get around it not too much. Like obviously they'd cut to actually her with a prosthetic to make her neck look messed up. So and they would cut away from the back So it wasn't all CGI.
But the hole in Hawn's stomach,
seamless.
That was really great looking.
That was that alone. Actually, and I gotta say,
tell me,
man, I'm sorry.
We're almost talking longer about this one.
I'm sorry.
The effects.
Okay. Before I interrupt the synopsis, then I'll be quiet for a bit.
I'm done with the synopsis. That's basically it. Willis finds out about her both, and then they become friends, and then try to convince Willis to stick with them because of his.
Ability to fix them up as they get messed up.
Right.
But he wants out of this. He's like, they're both bad. I'm getting out of this. But yeah, and a lot of great homages to Dracula with.
Yeah, we noticed some Dracula and also some Oz.
Some Oz with the castle.
A little bit of Oz because of the castle, and Rossellini is sort of
she's
playing a witch type character, lady. But more kind of more kind of Elvira a little bit.
Yeah.
But
it was great. I loved it.
Not as over the top, but I mean,
but channeling that vibe, that old school horror.
Yes, there was definitely some
Vincent Price kind of.
And guess what kind of movie this is? Universal.
Seriously?
It's a Universal movie.
Well, they're really referencing Dracula.
Yeah, remember we saw the globe in the beginning.
Oh, you're right.
Credits.
And I was thinking I always thought that was just okay, that's one with the hand, and it's like
it's definitely on purpose.
Everybody's got the shrouds, and they're all pale, and they look like vampires, and they're moving like it's just it's fun. It's just so fun I loved that, and wow, and that's right, Goldie Hawn, man. Whoever worked on her makeup and stuff with her eyes, she looked
she looked very possessed.
Goldie Hawn is one of the greatest and prettiest looking undead people I've ever seen. Right? But wow, just wow.
All right, so aside from the effects, which we agree are amazing, we got to talk about the rest of this movie, though.
It's a little all over the place.
It's all over the place. And look, even watching it now, where I'm like, okay, I understand satire more, I understand dark humor more, it still doesn't quite all connect in the way that I think it was intended to.
Yeah, it feels like they start off with one movie, and then the supernatural element takes over, and then sometimes, for a little bit, you forget Goldie Hawn's there, and there's a murder plot. It's not... I honestly forgot she was in it for a little bit.
And how do we feel about Willis's character?
He's probably one of the problems with, I guess, doing a dark comedy is trying to make characters that are all kind of scum but still
Right.
likable, and these three are not particularly likable.
None of them.
Which I get they're going for that. And for most of the movie, until maybe the end, Willis is the worst.
Yeah.
Because he's being pushed around by these women. He's wanting to kill one then the other, and he doesn't really have much of a personality. He just seems like a wimp. Then finally he kind of decides, all right, these women are toxic and I got to get out of it. That was kind of funny, and I'm glad they gave him a little bit of an arc, but most of the movie it's just like,
Yeah, and like we said, this was Willis's era of trying to really branch out. There was about a 10-year period after Moonlighting, after Die Hard.
It's a very interesting role
He
for him.
became, kind of an A-lister. So he was like, okay, let me try my hand at comedy. Let me try my hand at voice work. Let me try my hand at this and that. More action movies that aren't Die Hard.
Eventually, yeah.
Like you mentioned, Last Boy Scout. And I think most of them had less than stellar results.
Yeah, he's had a lot of. I know in the early '90s.
You can really take Willis's
North.
character. North. You can take Willis's acting career in really. There's only about 3 things he's been good at.
Yeah.
And he's been excellent at them.
Yeah.
He's a superstar in those types of things.
He is John McClane.
Die Hard movies,
Yes.
John McClane. Shyamalan movies.
Yeah, the few, yeah.
Right?
Very
Glass stunk, but obviously...
Not his fault. Yeah.
Not his fault. Obviously, Unbreakable, Sixth Sense, legendary. And then you could say maybe... because comedy is not one of them.
He's got some good drama with the sci-fi.
But
like 12 Monkeys. he was
like
good.
Fifth Element, okay, there you go. That's the third. Fifth Element, 12 Monkeys.
Yeah, Fifth Element's
the
great.
sci-fi type
like
of Willis.
Sci-fi-ish.
Yeah, those are the 3.
And
Shyamalan, I guess, leans into that
horror,
too, but that's more
supernatural
drama.
I'd say that's the drama.
Yeah.
So with certain people in certain situations, he's very good.
But I honestly think most other things Bruce Willis has attempted, certainly the singing career, he's not been as excelled in.
Bruce Willis's comedies typically aren't my favorite.
Like he did an arc in Friends, which he was in for 3 episodes as Ross's girlfriend's father, and he was okay. But I
feel like Bruce Willis.
It was hammy,
Bruce Willis is usually funniest, I think, when he's being the tough guy. Oh, okay, all right. I really like what is it? The Whole 9 Yards.
Okay, which I've not seen.
Okay, for instance, but that's comedy
Okay.
That's a comedy that works well for Bruce Willis because he's the tough, no nonsense
Right.
guy with somebody bouncing off of him.
That's kind of what he was in Friends. Ross was afraid of him because he's the girlfriend's dad, and he was imposing.
Kind of funny. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But that's the only stuff that I think works.
But I think it's also easy to do.
No.
I think that kind of genre. Obviously, I can't do it. I'm 5'3", but if you're an imposing type figure, he's got the bald head, he's muscles. That's easy to do.
But Arnold doesn't even do that. He can put in jokes.
Arnold puts in jokes.
He's got more comedy.
But all right, the point is,
anyway, yeah.
this was part of Willis's
Try.
experimental phase that I think, for the most part, doesn't work, and I don't think it works here.
No, not the whole time. It's like they weren't exactly sure what to do with this character.
And as for Streep, her character is very reminiscent of the one she did in She-Devil with Roseanne. So there's not a lot of stretching there either.
Seems a little one-note.
But at the time, Streep was as well known for one thing. It was doing these heavy dramas. So let me try my hand at some comedy. Let's do She-Devil. Let's do Defending Your Life. Let's do Death Becomes Her. And now, obviously, she's a lot more well-rounded with the Mamma Mia stuff.
Well,
but in the 80s, she was known for her very heavy and dramatic roles.
Yeah, and that's why I was actually pretty okay with
I think she's okay in this.
because you're going for satire, she's being kind of really over the top and
I
with the
think
focus.
she's okay at it.
I think she's fine, yeah.
Han, I think, is the best of the 3.
She's probably the most energetic and
she's certainly the most
consistent,
adept at comedy,
yes.
certainly in 92.
And physical. Even when she's walking around and trying to
comedy
be bad, that's funny.
It's great.
Her reactions are good.
But she's in the movie the least.
Yeah.
Of the 3 of them. So I think it's uneven in many ways for that. Well, really, I think the best character is Isabella Rossellini.
That's what I'm going to say. Her scenes, and,
to be honest.
And it's not completely why you think, but her presence is good. And
although she is gorgeous, obviously.
Yes, I'm going to say it.
Yes.
She's
gorgeous.
She's attractive, and I like her voice, and she's got that, and she works it, and she's got... One thing I like about Isabella Rossellini, I've only actually seen a couple movies of hers, but... She's a good actress because she has such presence, and
she does.
She can do a lot with very little. And,
yes, I agree.
And obviously, very different. But Blue Velvet, totally different character, very different tone. But she does a lot with that.
Right.
And I don't know if I ever told you this. She is in Merlin.
Oh, okay.
She's
Didn't know
she's
that.
Nimue. She
Okay.
So yeah, I do like her. She's really good. Just I guess the mystical role, but seeing her play like more of an evil witch this time, was
It was
fun.
very odd, but it was different. But I liked it.
But it's knowing the stuff she does. I like the fact that she doesn't have that many movies, so she's I think selective about her projects. But she usually goes all in with whatever she does.
And you told me she comes from the
Bergman.
stock,
She's
right.
like her. Sure,
She's Bergman stock, so she probably never had to work a day in her life.
So that she always seems to pick projects that are so interesting and off the wall. And I think her scenes were great in this.
Yeah.
I wish she was in the movie more.
I do too. But I also do kind of like the ending. I like the
ending was good.
When Streep and Han sort of make up, become friends again. I kind of liked that.
The punch at the end.
And then the extended portion with Willis and everything.
Yeah, with his funeral.
I did like the way the movie ended.
I liked the message it was going for, and it was still kind of dark, but Willis kind of sort of won in the end, and they're still like only care about beauty to the point where they're just sacrificing everything.
Yeah, at the end they're like plastering themselves with
which is
paint
obviously
and all of this stuff.
Commentary about trying to hold on to youth and caring more about appearances, and that's pretty. There is some smart stuff in here, and I like that. Once again, they're trying a lot of stuff, so it's a very interesting mix. And the final shot,
all over the place.
The final effect is great.
I really that last scene, really everything. Honestly, after Goldie Hawn
gets
we
killed.
find out, after we find out she was part of the
last
bit as
act,
well.
It's all fun.
Is really good.
It's when Bruce Willis actually starts to develop as a character and gets engaged.
It gets better for that
picks
too.
his side, picks his own side.
I agree.
Which I think may have been more intentional. So I don't know. I think the problem is it's like not all the jokes land in the beginning and it takes a while.
Not.
But once it builds momentum, it does have a good ending stretch.
Yes, I agree. It just takes so long to get to
that you're like, we're not sure. But there was peppered with interesting stuff throughout, like a visual,
I would say
a cool
that
gag, maybe a good character bit, like a performance.
I definitely laughed a few times.
Yeah, I had a few.
I definitely certainly laughed.
But but the first 20 minutes, I'm like, okay, I don't know how I feel about this movie.
Yeah, I can agree with that. So let's look up the Rotten. Let's look up the Ebert.
The Ebert.
And if I remember correctly,
you said
from
this is slammed, right?
If I remember correctly from when it was out, I think it was 2 thumbs down.
Whoa!
So I think neither one of them actually really liked it, but we'll see here.
Probably because it's so mean spirited. They never liked the mean spirited stuff.
Yeah,
I've watched their opinions. They're like, man, this movie is so
Ebert
mean.
specifically.
But Siskel was a little more open, but even they didn't like anything mean.
So here we go. This makes sense to me.
Oh, very divisive.
50 reviews total, 54% critics on Rotten. Over 100,000 ratings on audience, 61%. So middling in both aspects.
Wow.
Both slightly rotten.
So you might not like it, or you might like it. There's 50-50 shot.
So here's some of the critics here.
Sure.
Okay. This new horror comedy has to be one of the most heartless mainstream pictures ever made. If there were something resembling genuine satire of human behavior beyond simple pretexts, I might have found some of this funny. Okay. Here you go. It's She-Devil with a makeover.
Okay, I didn't see that. Maybe that's why I didn't impress them. Some freshes.
All right, here's some fresh. The effects are awesome.
Incessantly grotesque.
Occasionally
I like that.
too gruesome to enjoy. Death Becomes Her is clever, different, and dementedly entertaining.
I agree with that, actually.
And this top one, you were looking at intensely grotesque. For some reason I read the bottom one first. Spectacular, tasteless. Death Becomes Her isn't a film designed to win the hearts of the masses, but diabolically inventive and very, very funny.
Mm-hmm,
All right, so a few positives there.
I like that.
Let's see what Ebert had to say about it.
I wonder what Ebert's final stamp. Terrible. Nothing good to say.
I don't know.
Some good. I don't know.
That's somebody from 2016. What did actual Ebert say about
not the redo. They do that a lot with you.
I don't like that.
Yeah, that's why you got to Google it, man.
I did. I literally Googled Roger Ebert Death Becomes Her.
Maybe he didn't review it?
No, he definitely reviewed it because I'm telling you, I remember. Let me see. Sometimes the wiki will have his
excerpt.
At least something from it because they know people want to. Here you go. Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert both gave it thumbs down, commenting while the film had great effects. Well, I mean, look, there's no denying.
You can't argue that.
It lacked any real substance or character depth. I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't know.
Completely.
That's a little harsh.
I don't know if I agree completely. For me,
I can see that at face value, but there's more to these characters than I think you're led to believe.
I think the effects are enough
That's pretty cool.
Because on the whole for the film, let's talk about like the script, the acting, whatever.
It is
I
uneven.
would say like it's probably in the C+ type range, but
Yeah.
the effects I think are enough to
good.
push it to a B.
Some of those scenes
Like
are
not
really
even
cool.
just a B-, but I mean it's some of the best effects to this point, especially Han.
Han was great. What they were doing with Streep was
And
so
the end, like you said,
ambitious.
the end where they literally break up.
That was
they
practical.
crack up.
That was
and-
just the shot, and then they pretty much explode.
I thought that was really
with the
cool.
little arm move. I'm like, that was so 92.
And now that I understand satire,
a little more with
a bit more, dark comedy, a bit more. I think there are plenty of films that have done it better.
Sure.
But I think in that realm, it's a C+-ish.
Okay.
But I think because of the effects, I'm giving this movie a B.
Wow. That sounds about right. That's weird because I was like teetering on like, well, I think it's a bit uneven. That's why this is a movie I might have
definitely uneven.
That's why I was like, I have to think about it. I might have to watch it again because I definitely appreciate this movie a lot.
Well, and I appreciate it much more now. Like I wasn't grading with the letter system back then, but it probably would have been like a C- or a D+.
I'll tell you
I
what.
really disliked this movie
I'll tell you what.
at the time.
I will say that I liked it. I liked the satire. I liked the characters because I will admit it. I think it's a good dark comedy, and this will actually come back to Defending Life.
Oh yeah.
Because I had another point I forgot to mention about that. Thankfully, tonally speaking, I think this gentleman's films are an acquired taste because he has some dark comedies that I know a lot of people don't like. But Danny DeVito tends to do dark comedies, and this had a very Danny DeVito.
Yeah, you were getting some like Drowning Mona shades.
Yeah, and some Matilda. Like and I can understand. And some people that have watched those movies, they can come off a bit mean spirited, but they're still kind of like playful. So this reminds me a lot of that, and I do kind of like that. And he's always weird, experimental. This is a very DeVito-esque dark comedy to me, which I appreciate. So I liked that. I thought the characters were fun, even though they weren't the best developed. But that was
definitely one of my main issues.
There was some chemistry, though. I liked all.
Yeah, I will admit that the three leads had absolute chemistry. I will admit
I think what saves a lot of the story. And I like the fact that it's this really wacky, inventive thing trying to juggle so much with the murder plot. And I thought, okay, this is a metaphorical thing where it's like a lot of gags.
Right.
I was kind of on board, interested from that, but then they throw in the youth potion thing, where they try to get killed, then they're undead. I'm like,
completely different.
It's supernatural horror comedy,
Right.
and then references to old movies and stuff, and the editing and the set design, some of the shots, even the performances. Isabella Rossellini.
If you
was
give
great.
this the same grade as Defending Your Life, I'm going to lose it.
No. But I'm trying to just say that it's so uneven. But there's so
uneven.
There's so many little things that are in here, and it's like I said, this is a movie that is very much me. A lot of things I appreciate.
It is very you.
There's so much here that's for Joe, and I'm like,
it's part of the reason I picked it.
Really?
Well, yeah, because I mean, I was trying to think of what to pair. Because what do you pair Defending Your Life with?
But it was a good choice.
And
it's like the other end of it.
This is one that I had always thought of. Like, okay, maybe
Life and
I
Death.
was wrong.
That was
It's
good.
become sort of a cult classic. Yeah, this is the Life and Death double.
Pretty cool.
But I sort of thought, look, I knew it won the award for the effects. And I was like, all right, Joe, this is a Joe kind of movie.
It kind of is.
I might hate it, like I didn't care for like Desperado, whatever.
I appreciate camp and stuff.
But
I don't know.
I like revisiting movies from a completely different generation that I can watch 30 years on and have a different perspective on. And I'm glad I did.
And the effects, and just how they were handled blew me
the
away.
effects were great.
Like I said, it's a bit uneven, but it's like, I kind of wish that the characters were fleshed out more, and there was a bit more development, and it was a bit more consistent, like with Han, like you said. But it was pretty good. I could see myself coming back to this and thinking like it is kind of a classic.
Okay.
Because it's juggling so much. It is.
What's
really
your grade
fun.
for now, though?
Right now, I'm leaving it with a B-.
Oh, lower than me?
Yes.
Is that because I was expecting so little from it?
No.
And now I liked it?
No.
No, I mean my grade. Is my grade too high?
Here's the thing.
I think a B is all right for this movie.
I don't usually like do this, but I really
tell me.
I really need to think about this one because I think that's fun.
So this could be a thinker.
What I wanted to say was a B+. But you're right. It's so inconsistent.
Too mixed.
There's two.
It's too mixed.
So I'm like, maybe it could come to a B,
All right.
but like I'm.
So you were going to give it a B plus, but I talked you down to a B minus.
I was going to give it a C plus in my mind.
Oh, a C plus. Okay.
But then I realized
you said B plus.
There's so much.
It's going to be
there's
higher.
so much well done stuff in here that I really appreciate. I can't give it a negative grade. I had fun watching.
Yeah,
it.
look,
I liked it.
I think from from a story perspective, from a character perspective, it's a C plus.
Yes, it's
there's no doubt about it.
But for pure
effects,
creativity,
yes,
of the world and everything, I'm like, this is a very. You know what I appreciate?
Tell me.
I love a movie that is not boring.
It's not boring.
And is creative.
Yeah.
And unique and tries new things.
How does this get back to defending your life?
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Good. Come
well, I've been curious. I want to know.
Yeah, I kept him hooked. Okay. Now, DeVito, DeVito reminds me a bit of Death Becomes Her, stylistically,
okay, right.
Totally, very much so. And I mentioned this to you before. Defending your life could, in fact, be in the realm of great, wholesome, smart, good movies everybody could like. Because you know what it reminds me of?
Renaissance Man. I'm trying to think of the DeVito connection.
No, but for big names, this actually reminds me a bit of Groundhog Day. I think
a little bit
in movies that are hard to categorize
Absolutely.
that are like that. Defending Your Life is cerebral and wholesome.
That's another one. Groundhog Day is rated PG. Everybody can watch that movie. Yeah,
I think Defending Your Life and Groundhog Day.
I think that's a great comparison
for great philosophical comedies that just and deal with heavy themes.
And both A pluses in my book. That one did make my top 50.
You know, Groundhog Day is a really good movie.
It really is.
Got to watch it again.
It's yeah.
That's one that grew on me over time.
For a while, I was one of those people that watched it every February 2nd.
It's like a Lebowski.
So I've seen that movie a lot.
And big twist though.
Okay.
Okay. Do you know the best thing to come out of this double feature for me has been?
Well, I guess because she's in both, that you're a little higher up on Streep now.
A lot of the movies I've seen with Meryl Streep.
I think you need to see more of the light Streep. You've seen all of these, all the depressing,
it's not even
dark movies.
It's just I've seen a lot of the stuff. She just does a lot of the same roles, and I feel like she's
sometimes.
Herself. In maybe the last stuff I've seen her in the last 10, 20
but
years.
you love Prada, of course.
Prada's always made sense. If it wasn't for Prada, I'd be like,
Well, I think that film revived her career.
Did it?
I think so, because I don't remember seeing a lot of big Meryl Streep movies before that came out.
Deborah Rose Prada is an A+ movie for me. Spoilers.
I
love that movie.
I considered it for the list.
It's a
for
great
the top 50.
It's a great movie.
It's in my 100 for sure.
So it's like I could never say that I hated Streep.
Yeah, it's an A movie.
But a lot of the movies I saw with her just were like, I never really got it. But I didn't see the back end of her whole career.
Right.
And these are two movies that are different.
Yeah.
They're fun. And I got to see different sides. Like for instance,
she's showcasing her more fun side.
In Defending Her Life, she was such a sweet, nice character.
Yeah.
And I liked it. And I thought she had great chemistry with Albert Brooks. And in Death Becomes Her, I thought she played a fun, cold villain that was okay to make fun of herself in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Little bit of commentary there. And both very different, out there, supernatural, more speculative stuff. That was still kind of high concept. Now. I am more of a fan of Meryl Streep because of these movies.
I turned you around on Streep.
You did. I like Streep now.
Good.
100%.
Wow. Okay. That's very impressive. Because Defending Your Life.
Streep Becomes Her.
Streep Becomes Her.
By the way, the title works on two levels too.
Which one? Defending Your Life?
Or
Death Becomes Her?
Death Becomes Her. Because it becomes them visually, but also they become body.
Yes.
So that was clever. See,
which I never thought of until you'd pointed it out. Yes, but when you say, "Oh, that really becomes you," it's
a pun. It's a play on words.
Because they look much better.
I got it. It's got some smart stuff.
Because Defending Your Life was the first Streep I ever saw. I think I've always been a Streep fan. Mm-hmm. You know, but then I mean, it's not like I went and saw a lot of her movies. But then when Prada came out, I was like, now I'm like, okay, this woman's amazing. Sorry. Well, listen, we got to wrap it here. This is the first one that's been this long that has only had 2 movies. Usually the 3 years are long.
I thought this was going to be short because they're just 2 comedy, but. Look,
Joe.
There was a lot.
You know how we talk.
We gotta watch a movie that's not good.
Well, we do that sometimes.
But even then, there's stuff to talk about.
Right. So here's the plan. We have a few months for this year worked out in terms of Dan's big movie and the anniversaries. But I was looking up the ones for April earlier today. Actually, right as we were watching Death Becomes Her.
Yep.
And I came up with a few, but we couldn't really decide.
Yes.
They're all 3 movies that you and I have talked about that I need to see. You've seen all three already.
Yes.
And we'll end up pairing them with something. But we want to hear from you guys if you have any opinions about these three movies. So this is going to be April 2021 is the 40th anniversary of Excalibur.
Which is...
one of your favorites.
Yes.
I mean, you're Merlin the Mighty here.
Yes.
This is the 20th, I think, anniversary of Along Came a Spider.
Good.
Which we just talked about the other day.
We just talked about like a day or two.
I think when we were watching Hannibal.
Because we're like,
it came up.
It kind of reminds me a bit of Seven, Kiss the Girls and stuff.
And then this is the 15th anniversary of Lucky Number 11.
Which you...
I refused to watch.
Because the title
is so GD stupid. But you've always said to me.
I am a fan.
For a decade that I've known you, you've said to me, the movie's not that bad, Another Bruce Willis. So
it's good cast.
So we'll figure out what to pair them with. I think Along Came a Spider pairs itself with Kiss the Girls.
But the dilemma is we just did all the serial killer stuff.
So do we want to do that again? So you guys watching this, if you've made it this far, God bless you.
And he's going to put a poll up somewhere. Maybe.
If I know how to do that.
I'll help you.
We'll figure it out. But
I'll show you.
Please let us know in the comments if you have a preference for us to review any of those movies. Excalibur, Along Came a Spider, or Lucky Number 11.
I would be down to watch any of those.
I would be as well. I mean, I've never seen them. You like all of them.
Yes, I would enjoy.
And then coming up later in the year, we're going to have. We already have a request for Princess Diaries 1 and 2.
Yep.
So we're going to do that. That should be fun. I've never seen either, and they seem like right up my alley. And then we've got one of the classic musicals. We're going to tackle. I believe it's the 50th of West Side Story this year. Yeah. And then I think we also realized that same month is the 40th of Fiddler. So I think that's going to be the pairing.
That's so good.
Or maybe later in the year is the 40th. But either way, like that's going to be the pairing.
It's going to be a long night.
So we'll do those. And I think there... Whoopi. Jumping Jack Flash and Burglar we're going to do.
I've been talking about that for years.
The 80s Whoopi movies. So anyway, that's all coming up this year on Dan's Big Movie. But April... we sort of didn't know, so let us know.
So let us know, and I'll also maybe be bringing his thing over here to my channel to kind of maybe get some more people over with the Time Machines.
We're gonna watch The Time Machine very soon. One of my all-time favorite movies.
And Guy Pearce.
And so we'll do a Dan's Big Movie over on your channel because it's not specifically an anniversary. We just want to watch them.
Pretty much.
So anyway, yes, always check out Merlin the Mighty, of course,
if you want.
So thank you for watching. Bye.